Before your first breath, before your heart pulsed within your mother's womb, a decision was made, not from the mind, but from a place far deeper. You stood at the threshold of existence, suspended between formlessness and form, and you chose. You chose not comfort, not ease, but a path of awakening, a path laced with pain, with uncertainty, with loss. And yet it was sacred, not punishment. Not accident, but initiation. The soul is not naive. It is ancient, timeless, and fiercely devoted to growth. Pain, in its rawest form, is the soul's chisel, shaping, revealing, burning away illusion. Weiss, a guide through lifetimes and memories, reminded us that before incarnation, the soul participates in a divine collaboration. You, in concert with unseen forces, selected this precise life, not despite its suffering, but because of it. This truth does not flatter the ego, it humbles it. The idea that you chose your pain dismantles the belief that you are a victim of chaos. It invites you into the architecture of your own becoming. And though your conscious mind resists, crying out, "Why would I ever choose this?" the deeper self whispers, "Because you knew, you remembered, you saw what you could become." Not all suffering is sacred, but some suffering is a doorway, unmistakably precise, designed not to punish you but to wake you up. When you move through grief, betrayal, illness, or silence so deep it echoes inside your bones, you are not being broken. You are being asked to remember who you really are beneath the forgetting. The pain you carry, maybe quietly, maybe hidden, has meaning. Not in the sense of reason or logic, but in essence. It is not about what happened, but how it asked your soul to stretch, to expand, to open where it once closed. Weiss's journey through past lives shows us that the soul carries memory beyond what we call a life. Some of your deepest fears were not born here. Some of your wounds echo from other timelines, and yet, even these were chosen, not to repeat but to resolve, to heal in this life what remained open in another. If you allow this idea to settle, not as belief but as a possibility, then something begins to shift. You are no longer merely enduring life, you are participating in it from the level of soul. And participation means presence. It means curiosity instead of judgment. It means asking not why me, but what is this pain asking me to see? In the quiet space beyond explanation, you will hear the soft voice of remembrance. It will not speak in words, but in resonance. A sense that perhaps, just perhaps, everything unfolding was part of something more complete, more intelligent than you ever imagined. And so if you feel weary, lost, or alone on this journey, know this: you are not lost. You are mid-ceremony. The soul does not forget the path, even when the mind does. And within the pain, there is always light, waiting to be seen not with the eyes, but with the inner sight that awakens only through stillness. If these words echo within you, if they stir something that has no name, perhaps it is your soul remembering. And if so, let it unfold gently. Trust that what brought you here is not chance, but alignment. And if this resonance touches something true in you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, not as a follower but as a fellow traveler, on this path of remembrance and inner awakening. In the luminous space between lives, there is no confusion, no fear, no doubt. There is only clarity, the kind that doesn't arise from thought, but from being itself. Here, the soul surveys the blueprint of its next incarnation, not with hesitation, but with deep intentionality. Every choice, every encounter, even the most painful ones, are viewed through the lens of expansion. You did not enter this life alone, nor did you enter it randomly. Weiss, through decades of regression therapy, uncovered this sacred truth. Souls form agreements before birth, contracts not bound by words, but by resonance. Souls meet again and again across lifetimes to assist one another in waking up. Sometimes this help is gentle, filled with kindness and grace. But often, the most profound awakening is born through challenge, through the friction of loss, the sting of betrayal, or the silence of abandonment. It is a difficult teaching to hold, that someone who hurt you deeply may have once loved you enough to agree to play that role. But from the vantage point of spirit, pain is not cruelty, it is catalyst. These soul contracts are not about suffering for its own sake, they are about evolution, and evolution is rarely soft. You may wonder, why would I choose this? Not out of masochism, not out of guilt, but because your soul understood that within this life, something needed to be remembered. Strength, compassion, boundaries, forgiveness, these are not just concepts. They are lived frequencies, and often they emerge only under pressure. There are no villains in the realm of soul, only roles, temporarily worn to serve a greater unfolding. This does not excuse harm, it does not ask you to remain in pain, but it does invite a new lens, one that sees beyond the personal and into the sacred geometry of your life. When you begin to view your experiences as part of a greater tapestry, you reclaim your power. You step out of the narrative of victimhood and into the presence of purpose. Many who have experienced trauma resist this idea, and rightly so. The human self needs time, space, and gentleness. There is no rush to spiritualize pain. Healing is not about bypassing the wound, but honoring it with depth and sincerity. Still, when the moment is right, a deeper inquiry may arise. What did this experience awaken in me that could not have awakened otherwise? Sometimes, the soul chooses a parent who will not know how to love, a partner who will leave, a teacher who will fail. And yet, even in these ruptures, there are hidden doorways into truth, into sovereignty, into the reclamation of self. This doesn't mean your suffering was fair or deserved, it means it was fertile. And that fertility is what the soul longs for, not to destroy, but to transmute. Brian Weiss's regressions revealed that many souls after death look back on their lives not with regret for the pain they endured, but with gratitude for the transformation it offered. And you, right now, stand in the middle of that sacred alchemy. Perhaps you do not yet see the pattern. Perhaps it still feels senseless. But trust that there is intelligence in your experience, even if it remains unseen. You are not the product of accidents, but the result of intention, deep, soul-level intention. And if you feel the quiet stirrings of recognition, stay with them. Let them move through you, not as answers, but as invitations you are remembering. Not who you thought you were, but who you have always been. Pain speaks in a language the soul understands, not with words, but with vibrations. It doesn't scream for punishment, it pulses with invitation. Beneath every ache is a question. Are you willing to awaken now? To the mind, pain is a problem to fix, but to the soul, it is a sacred messenger. When Brian Weiss guided patients into past life memories, what often emerged was not just the pain of a moment, but the forgotten wisdom trapped within it. A sudden heartbreak was no longer random, it was the echo of an old story, reawakened to be rewritten. A fear that seemed irrational found its roots in a life long past. Pain became a key, not a curse. We often resist our suffering. We label it, analyze it, try to escape it. But rarely do we sit with it, not to wallow, but to listen. Pain has intelligence, not the kind that explains, but the kind that transforms. When you allow yourself to feel it without judgment, you begin to decode its message. And in that moment, something shifts. The pain doesn't vanish, but it softens, it opens. There are parts of you that were buried long ago, gifts, intuitions, truths too potent for a younger self to carry. So they went underground, wrapped in silence, in defense, in numbness. But pain has a way of cracking the shell, and when it does, what emerges is not just sorrow but remembrance. The deepest spiritual awakenings are rarely comfortable. They arrive wrapped in confusion, heartbreak, and the disintegration of everything familiar. But within that disintegration is the raw material of rebirth. Brian Weiss often spoke of the way his patients transformed, not by bypassing their wounds, but by meeting them with presence. In doing so, they not only healed this life, but many. And what of the moments you thought would break you? The ones you still carry like stones in your chest? Perhaps they were never meant to crush you, but to shatter the illusion that you are powerless, separate, or alone. Pain, when honored, becomes a mirror. It shows you not just where you hurt, but where you stopped trusting, where you stopped listening, where you stopped loving yourself. There is no shame in the struggle, no failure in the wound. What matters is how you meet it now, with tenderness, with honesty, with a willingness to feel. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the pain becomes something else, a teacher, a companion, a guide. You begin to see that every crack in your armor is not weakness but an opening. Every moment of despair is not emptiness but a clearing, and in that clearing, new truth can land. You were never meant to live untouched by sorrow. You were meant to learn how to alchemize it, into compassion, into strength, into deeper knowing. If you find yourself in a season of pain, do not rush it. Do not silence it. Let it unfold with reverence. Ask it what it came to show you, and then wait. Listen not with your ears, but with your being. What arises in that silence may not be easy, but it will be real. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And through the cracks, light begins to seep, not from outside, but from the place in you that was never wounded, never lost, never afraid. The place that chose this pain, not to suffer, but to awaken. There is a veil that falls as we enter this life, a forgetting, deliberate, and dense. The soul agrees to this amnesia, knowing that the forgetting is not punishment, it is the beginning of remembrance. Without it, there could be no true rediscovery of the self, no unfolding of purpose, no sacred reunion with truth. And yet, the forgetting is heavy. It clouds our knowing, disconnects us from the silent clarity we once held. We forget why we came, who we are, and what we asked to experience. Pain becomes unbearable only when it appears meaningless. But what if the meaning was simply hidden, not lost? Weiss reminds us that behind every fear is a memory, and behind every memory a lesson the soul longs to integrate. His work revealed that the most profound healing often comes not from adding anything new, but from recovering what was already known, what was temporarily hidden behind the veil. The soul remembers, even when the mind does not. This remembrance does not happen all at once. It comes in waves, in synchronicities that make your skin tingle, in moments of stillness where truth pierces through thought. It can happen during meditation, in dreams, or even through unexpected pain. These are not coincidences. They are nudges, soft echoes of who you were before the forgetting. To remember is not simply to recall events. It is to feel the resonance of something deeper stirring. A recognition, a subtle magnetic pull toward authenticity. You begin to question the roles you've played, the beliefs you've carried, the patterns that no longer serve. This is not confusion. It is clarity arising from within. The veil is necessary, but it is not eternal. It thins when you allow yourself to be present with what is, not with judgment, but with curiosity. When you pause long enough to listen, not to noise, but to the quiet intelligence beneath it, when you choose to feel, even when it's hard. Many who walk the spiritual path long for certainty, for answers, for maps. But remembrance does not follow a straight line. It is a spiral. You return to the same questions, but from deeper levels. Each cycle sheds another layer. Each pain revisited offers a more spacious understanding. You begin to see that what once felt like the end was actually a threshold. You are not remembering something foreign. You are remembering yourself. The self that existed before trauma, before conditioning, before time. And that self is not damaged. It is luminous. It is not separate from the divine. It is an expression of it. As you peel back the veil, this becomes less a belief and more a lived experience. There may be moments when this remembrance is overwhelming, when it feels like too much to hold. That is okay. The soul is patient. There is no race, no requirement, only the invitation to remain open. And in that openness, even the smallest glimpse can shift your entire perspective. So a single insight can dissolve years of suffering. You do not need to chase remembrance. It finds you when you are ready. All you must do is create the space for it. Stillness, honesty, surrender. These are the portals, and through them the veil begins to lift, not as a dramatic event, but as a gentle unveiling of what was always here. In this remembering, pain is not erased, but it is recontextualized. No longer the enemy, it becomes the spark that illuminated the path home. The wound becomes the compass, and you, the wanderer, become the awakened. You did not forget by accident, and you will not remember by force, but the remembering has already begun. There comes a moment, not loud or dramatic, but unmistakably real, when you realize the pain did not come to destroy you. It came to reunite you with what you had forgotten. This is the sacred return, not to who you were, but to who you've always been, beneath the forgetting. The soul's journey is not linear, it spirals inward again and again, calling you back to wholeness. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integration. It means honoring the broken pieces, the scattered timelines, the disowned parts, and welcoming them back into your light. Weiss saw this in every patient who crossed the threshold of past life memory. They did not become someone else. They reclaimed the lost fragments of themselves, and in doing so, they softened, they healed. They remembered. Your pain, your doubts, your longing, they are not evidence of failure. They are signs that your soul is alive, that it still cares deeply about truth. And truth does not always arrive in bliss. Sometimes it arrives through the ache of surrender, through the humility of not knowing, through the courage to stay present in the unraveling. You are not on a path of becoming something new. You are on a path of unveiling. The divine is not something you must earn. It is what remains when the layers fall away. And when you touch that space, even for a breath, everything shifts. The pain may still be there, but it no longer owns you. It becomes part of the story, not the author of it. Forgiveness plays a quiet but vital role in this return. Not just forgiveness of others, but of self. For the times you forgot your worth, for the moments you settled, for the chapters where you clung to pain because it felt safer than freedom. Forgiveness does not condone what happened. It simply says, I am willing to move forward now, and in that willingness, doors open. The soul begins to realign. You meet people, experiences, and synchronicities that feel strangely familiar, as if you had agreed to them long before this lifetime. Because perhaps you did. The path becomes illuminated, not because it is without darkness, but because you are no longer walking it blind. Even your gifts, your intuition, your empathy, your creative fire begin to awaken in new ways. Not from force, but from resonance. They were never lost, only dormant, waiting for the moment you were ready to hold them with clarity. Your sensitivity, once seen as weakness, reveals itself as your most sacred compass. There is great strength in softness, great wisdom in stillness. As you return to yourself, you begin to trust that life is not happening to you, it is unfolding through you. That every pain was a thread leading you home, that nothing was wasted, not even the moments you thought had broken you, and now you are different. Not because you've escaped the pain, but because you've let it shape you into someone more present, more open, more whole. You carry the same soul, but with more light. You are no longer seeking outside what always lived within. You are home. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it.